Om Khandamandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupaswarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakhyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam Namah Pankajanabhaya Namah Pankajamaline Namah Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangraye Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namo Brahmanya Devaya Gobrahmanahitaya Cha Jagadhitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramaddanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Sarvebhyo Namaha. In the last session, we heard the story of Vishwamitra struggling to become a Brahma Rishi. This story is narrated in the Srimad Ramayanam of Valmiki, the original Ramayanam, in the Balakanda, the very first Kanda of the Ramayanam. And this happens when Vishwamitra, he has taken Rama and Lakshmana from Ayodhya, from Dasharatha's palace. And they are just about 15 years of age. He's going around with them. They have helped him to kill some demons, asuras. And eventually they reach Mithila, Janaka's kingdom. And before the marriage with Sita, this happens when Shatananda, who is the son of Gautama Maharishi, he is present there. They have just visited Gautama's ashram, and Ahalya has been delivered from the curse that she had got. So Shatananda is speaking to Rama and Lakshmana, and in the presence of Sri Vishwamitra, he narrates Vishwamitra's entire story. So in today's class, we will do a critical analysis from the lens of Bhagavad-Gita. We'll look at how Bhagavad-Gita's knowledge, the different kinds of theoretical lenses that Gita gives us. Through that, how do we look at what Vishwamitra went through, and what is the takeaway for us? What learnings can we try to borrow from all this? And that's the intention of today's session. So I begin with these broad questions which guide the analysis. So Vishwamitra is regarded as a dharmika raja. That's how he's described in the Ramayana, that he was a very dharmic king. He was not a dharmic person. So he followed the laws of dharma. So how do we analyze his personality from the perspective of the Gita? To what extent is his aim in the story narrated here akin to the aim of yoga described in the Gita? The Gita describes yoga as the highest process, the process to follow for achieving the highest aim of life. So how is Vishwamitra's goal in alignment with that? And what lessons does Vishwamitra's case have for us? So this is actually a case, like a management case. We are going to analyze Vishwamitra's case. So my analysis begins with a timeline. And from what I have understood by reading these 15 chapters, I've mapped various events. This took about 5,000 to 9,000 years of time. Okay, how this number comes about, I'll just explain now. So let me mark 2 points, start and end. Right in the beginning of this story is Vishwamitra's visit to Vasishta Rishi's ashram. Vasishta is a Brahma Rishi. He is a very powerful sage and he's very pure at heart. His ashram is a very, very sacred place, very peaceful place where several other very great sages live with him. They coexist in a community. And there are also animals who live very peacefully. There are beautiful plants. The description in the Ramayana is very nice. And in the course of their interaction, Vasishta develops a desire Vishwamitra develops a desire to possess Kamadhenu, which is one of the go in the ashram of Vasishta, who is very dear to Vasishta and who is actually aiding Vasishta in all the different dharmic activities that he is performing. So he wants Kamadhenu, and as a king, he rightfully asks him, he says that everything in this kingdom belongs to me, and now I think I should take Kamadhenu with me, and in exchange for that, I'll give you 1 lakh other go. But Vasishta then politely declines. He says, no, I can't spare her because she is very dear to me. There's a very deep bond between them. It is not just like some animal or pet. It's even with any pet, we have a very dear bond. And she's more than just a pet. In all the activities I do, she's there. And when he says this, Vishwamitra becomes angry. And in anger, he tries to make a business proposal. He says that I will not only give you 1 lakh go, but I'll give you enormous amount of wealth. And he spells out what he will give. Vasishta just coolly replies. He says that even if you give me many times more than that, I have no interest in this. I cannot spare Kamadhenu. Then what follows is attack on Kamadhenu by Vishwamitra. Then there is a retaliation by Kamadhenu because she is very powerful. And she creates soldiers. They fight with Vishwamitra's soldiers, kill them. And Vishwamitra becomes even more angry. And in his anger, he uses his weapons and kills the soldiers created by Kamadhenu. Kamadhenu creates another batch of soldiers. They attack Vishwamitra. So there is a back and forth fight. And in that process, Kamadhenu creates 3 batches of soldiers, each time attacking Vishwamitra. In the process, in somewhere in between, Vishwamitra's 100 sons, they also enter the fight. Okay, they are dragged into the fight and they attack Vasishta directly. Vasishta is undisturbed by that because just by his exhalation, he's so powerful that he just breathes out and all the 100 sons of Vishwamitra are eliminated. They are finished. So seeing all this, Vishwamitra realizes that he has been thoroughly defeated. All his soldiers, his sons, everything is finished. Only one son is left, and we'll just come to that. So what he does is he goes back, but when he reflects over it, he doesn't give up. He says that now I have to take revenge on this guy. He has completely humiliated me. I'll show him who I am, what my power is. I'm a Kshatriya. I'm the emperor of this world. So he appoints his remaining son as the king. He says, please follow everything as per the rules of Kshatriya Dharma. I have a bigger mission in life. His mission is to take revenge on Vasishta. So he goes to some secluded place along with his wife and he meditates on Lord Shiva, prays to Lord Shiva, does some tapasya, and Lord Shiva appears. Lord Shiva is Ashutosh, means one who is very easily pleased, Ashutosha. So with some tapasya, Shiva is pleased, he appears. What do you want? I want all these astras. Please give me Dhanurveda and all the astras that a Kshatriya should possess and become very powerful. I want to become very, very powerful. So he's blessed with a lot of different astras, including the Brahmastra. So what does he do with that? He goes straight back to Vasishta's ashram because that's what he's been doing all this for. And without any warning, he just attacks the ashram. It's just like a night attack, where just like recently we heard this Hamas attacking Israel. All of a sudden, out of the blue, they just went and attacked. There was no warning. There was no signal. There was not even, Israel had no suspicion that they're going to come. So in the same manner, the ashram is very peaceful. Vasishta has no clue that this is going to happen. Suddenly, he comes and attacks. And the ashram is on fire. Everybody runs away. And Vasishta then comes out. And he is now, he's like, who's this guy? Why is this guy fellow doing this? So he warns him that don't do this. I will finish you. And Vishwamitra replies by sending more weapons. The first weapon he sent is called the Agneastra. The Agneastra is nullified by Vasishta. Then he sends one by one all the weapons he has got. In the Ramayana, 42 weapons are listed in the shlokas that I read. 42, 1, 2, 3, 4, 42 different weapons are listed, ending with the Brahmastra. So each of them, he just has a Brahmadanda, Vasishta, and the Brahmadanda, he just absorbs that weapon and it's nullified. Vasishta doesn't get disturbed, he doesn't fight. He just stands there and absorbs every weapon which comes. And finally, the Brahmastra is sent. Brahmastra is the most powerful of all weapons, and today some people compare it to the nuclear bomb and all that. Maybe it is. But whatever it is, it's extremely powerful. So the entire universe gets disturbed. It's no longer between Vishwamitra and Vasishta. Others, they see, and people are, across other planetary systems, living beings are disturbed that this can cause massive destruction if it is not properly handled. But there's nothing to fear again because Vasishta still Brahmadanda does the job. He just stands there and holds his Brahmadanda and the Brahmastra also is absorbed into it. At that point, when this happens, Vishwamitra realizes that he has been completely beaten, that all the weapons he brought had absolutely no effect on Vasishta. The only thing he succeeded in doing was in destroying portions of the ashram. Okay, and that Vasishta severely scolds him. He says, this is such a peaceful place. You come here and you have just destroyed everything, all the plants, creepers, the people who are living here. You just caused a massive havoc. You're a very adhama, you're a Kshatriya adhama, lowest among the Kshatriyas. You have no business to do this. He scolds him and he doesn't kill him. That's a significant point. Vasishta's sagaciousness also comes out there. He could have just killed him, but he doesn't do that. He lets him go. So what does Vishwamitra do? Now his vengeance is multiplied, his sense of vengeance on. So he decides that this fellow is my enemy, and I'll do, tapasya to show him who I am. I'll become, he at this point, there's a shloka in the Ramayana which says that Kshatriya's power, Vishwamitra realizes that the power of a Kshatriya is nothing compared to the power of a Brahmana. A Brahmana who, like Vasishta, who has gained enormous power by doing his japa. Vasishta is described in the Ramayana repeatedly as a japatam sreshta, means one who is the foremost among people who do japa. So through japa, he has got so much power. Okay, japa of whatever mantra, that mantra is not revealed. Maybe the Gayatri mantra or whatever mantra. By doing that japa, he has become so powerful, and Vishwamitra sees that all the weapons he brought are no match for his power. Even without any fight, without any disturbance, just standing there with a stick, he absorbed everything. So he says, his aim no longer is to get Kamadhin. That looks like a small thing for him now. His aim now is to become a Brahmana. I'll become like him. I will get the power that he has, and I'll show him that I'm also capable of being like him. So you can see how his ego is speaking. So with this, what he does is he tells his son, now you take care, I'm leaving. My job as a Kshatriya is over. I'm going to now become a Brahmana. So he takes his wife and he goes with her, and he goes to the south. So there begins his first tapasya to become a Brahman. And in the timeline, I'm going to show 9 rounds of tapasya. The first round begins now when he goes to the south. And this is a 1,000-year tapasya. That's why I've indicated it with one particular color. And this width and this color means it's 1,000 years. So he does this tapasya for 1,000 years. Okay. So in those days, people had this ability to, prolong their life. Even otherwise, they were long living. But on top of that, by doing tapasya, they could prolong their life. They could stop aging and prolong their life. Okay, even today we hear that by following proper diet, breathing control, and this and that, one can prolong one's life, even within the 100 years we live. So he lives for 1,000 years in this tapasya, and he becomes very purified, becomes quite purified. At the end of this tapasya, Lord Brahma appears in front of him. And he says, I'm very happy with what you've done. You've really, mastered your mind and senses and so on. You've done this something that Kshatriyas normally don't do. So you are now conferred the title of a Raja Rishi. Okay. So that is like a big defeat for Vishwamitra, because he wanted to become a Brahmana. Raja Rishi just means that you are the king you are the Rishi among the kings. That's it. So you're still a king only. You're still a Raja. And among the Rajas, you're a Rishi. You're recognized as a saintly king. That's all. And it's, again, it's nothing. It's like back to square one. He has not achieved anything in his perspective. So Brahma goes away. And so Vishwamitra is very disappointed. But he says, I will not give up. I will once again do another tapasya. And again, I will ask Brahma to make me a Brahma Rishi. So he starts this tapasya. And in the second round of tapasya, he does not complete 1,000 years. It's not clear how many years it went on for. But shortly after he starts, Trishanku, the king Trishanku comes, and a whole series of events happen with Trishanku, which I narrated last time. In the process of doing that, many different things happen. He ends up cursing the sons of Vasishta to become something very, very low, take a very low birth, and that curse acts upon them because of the power of his tapasya. So tapasya gives us shakti. When we do any kind of tapasya, it gives us shakti, mental power, mental concentration, etc. And this kind of tapasya also generates the ability to curse somebody or bless somebody. So he is using his tapas shakti for cursing people out of anger. So he curses the sons of Vasishta. They get demolished. He has a confrontation with the devas. The devas don't come to his yajna. He's trying to send Trishanku to heaven. They don't appear there. So he gets upset with them. Out of anger, he sends Trishanku with his tapas shakti to heaven. Indra pushes him down, says, no, you don't have a right to enter here. Again becomes angry, creates a planet. So he uses all the tapas shakti that he has got in doing all this. At the end of it, finally, some negotiation with the devas happens, and Trishanku is given some place, and that story ends there. It's realized Trishanku cannot go to heaven in this body, but at least let him remain there. At the end of this, the conclusion is Vishwamitra has lost all his tapas shakti. His tapasya is a failure. So then he says, now I've been in the south for so much time and I've done 2 rounds of tapasya. One of them led me somewhere, the second one just failed. So I'll no longer be here. Let me move from here to the west. So he goes to the west, he goes to a place called Pushkar, which is in Rajasthan today. So in Pushkar, he begins his 3rd round of tapasya. Now, that 3rd round too is interrupted by another king, and that's called Ambarisha, in the same lineage as Trishanku. Both are in the lineage of the Surya Vamsha, Ishwaku Vamsha. So Ambarisha comes with Sunashapa. There's another long story there. So in that process of helping them, again, his tapashakti gets depleted, and he gets angry again. There's some anger and cursing and stuff like that happens in between. But in the process, that tapasya round also is depleted. It's finished. So he's not to be. He doesn't give up. He says, "No, I'll begin the 4th round." So this 4th round, he begins with seriousness. He says, "I'll not be interrupted by anybody now. I will not lose my concentration." And he manages to complete 1,000 years of tapasya. So this 4th round of tapasya also goes for 1,000 years. And at the end of this, Brahma appears. And he's doing it in Pushkar, which is Brahma's place. Brahma is worshipped there. It's believed that Brahma is the only place on the earth where Brahma is worshipped. So he does this, and at the end of this 4th round, he's conferred the title of Rishi. Now you have gone from being a Raja Rishi, that Raja is removed from your title, so you're no longer like a king. You're beyond that, you are now a Rishi. Okay. So it's like going from Padma Shri to Padma Bhushan, right? So he goes to that next level. You become a Rishi. And obviously, he's not a Brahma Rishi, so he's not satisfied. Brahma just goes away, gives him the title, and he just vanishes there. There's no discussion. So he's unhappy, and he says, "No, this is not what I started out all this for. So let me try again. Okay, I will not give up." So in the 5th round of tapasya, he starts again, but shortly after he starts, Menaka, the beautiful damsel from Swargaloka, she appears there. Okay, it's not clear why she appears there. That's not given in the Ramayana, in the narrative. She appears there, and she's very beautiful. She's extraordinarily beautiful. She's heavenly beauty. So he sees her, and he's enamored by her. He's enamored by her beauty. He gets carried away, and he courts her, and she agrees to marry him, or she agrees to stay with him. I don't know whether they get married, but she stays with him, and for 10 years they live a life of material enjoyment together. At the end of 10 years, Vishwamitra realizes that this is not what I came for. I gave up my kingdom. I lost my son. So many things happened, and now I'm living with this girl. What's the big deal? So he says, "This is not what I came for." And when he realizes that, Menaka gets very jittery. She thinks she's finished now, but he lets her go. He doesn't curse her. His anger is controlled. He takes it upon himself. He says, "I'm responsible for this," and he lets her go. And then he says, "No, I should not remain in this region anymore. This region is not auspicious for me. Let me move from here to the north." So his next round of tapasya begins in the north, and at the end of that 1,000 years, he manages to complete 1 round of 1,000 years. Brahma appears, and Brahma says, "I'm very happy with you. Now you're blessed with the title of Maharishi. You've gone beyond Rishi. You're now Maharishi." So at that point, he asks Brahma, he says, "Oh my Lord, I'm actually trying to be a Brahma Rishi. Please give me that title. Please tell me I'm a Brahma Rishi. I've controlled everything." Then Brahma says, "No, you haven't yet controlled all your senses. Your mind and senses are still not controlled. You still have to work harder. Please work harder." Okay, it's exactly like, when you write a paper with a guide. The guide, you go and show him, says, "No, this is not good enough. Go again." So guide will make you do it some 15 times. So Brahma is like, "Okay, do it again." So Brahma is proved right, because shortly after that, when he starts his next round, that is the 7th round of tapasya in the story, Indra calls Ramba, because Indra and Devas are now getting jittery because this guy is not giving up. They probably thought that after 1 or 2 rounds he will give up and go. Anybody would do that, but he's not giving up. So he's still on, and Indra and other Devas are not very happy because they know that this tapasya will make him much more powerful than them. They also have reached Swargaloka with tapasya only, right? But this way he's doing it, he'll become much more powerful, and he may, after all, he's got a Kshatriya mentality, right? He may come and throw them out. So they send Ramba. And when Ramba comes there with the intention to spoil his thing, the moment he sees her, he knows that she has come to break his tapasya, because he just had this experience with Menaka and he has learned from that. He's not going to make the mistake again. So he sees her and immediately he curses her. He says that you will be a stone for 10,000 years. But I'll give you relief. At the end of 10,000 years, Vasishta will come, and by his blessings, you will be released. Okay, now in his mind, he has become, you can see that he's citing Vasishta, not anybody else. He's talking about him respectfully. So when this starts out, he's having a complete vengeance mood with Vasishta. But now that vengeance has gone down, all his tapasya has at least brought him to a stage where he sees Vasishta more as a benchmark than as an object of vengeance. So he curses Ramba, and immediately after cursing that, he realizes what Brahma said was true, that he has not controlled, and that is why he got angry. He need not have got angry with her. He could have just ignored her. Isn't it so easy to ignore somebody? Why curse her at all? So he realizes that he has not conquered anything. So he says that now I'm going to begin my next round of tapasya. So after Ramba, he moves out of that place. From the north, he moves to the east. Okay, so now he has finished south, west, and north, and now he's in the east. And in the east, he begins the 8th round of tapasya. In the 8th round, he says that I am going to now make sure I will not get angry. But in this tapasya round, he has a realization that his anger has been the cause of his downfall every time. Anger has come in between and come in the way of him becoming a Brahma Rishi. So I'll give up my anger. So he gives up his anger consciously and doesn't allow anger to come inside him, whatever happens. It's not clear in the Ramayana what happened, if anything happened. But it is just said that he ensured that anger did not come inside him. Krodha could not enter. He controlled himself so much. And at the end of this 1,000 years, he completes 1,000 years successfully. Brahma appears again. Brahma doesn't appear. Brahma sends Indra. Indra appears there. And just to test him, Indra appears in the form of a poor Brahmana who is emaciated and begging. And at the end of any tapasya, so for example, today is Ekadashi. For us, Ekadashi is a tapasya. People at our level think Ekadashi is a tapasya, right? We cannot do 1,000 years and all that. One day of not eating normal food for us is a tapasya. So at the end of Ekadashi, what do? We do Paran, what is called as Paran. That will be tomorrow morning. Okay, today is Ekadashi. Tomorrow morning, when the sun rises, we do Paran at that time, sunrise time. At Paran, what do? We take something that is like our normal food, something made with grain. And normally, in some places, after Ekadashi, or any vrata, any upavas vrata, a feast is held. A feast is held with some sweet and some fried item, something different from your normal breakfast. Because you reward yourself that now I have done one day of Ekadashi, I have held something more. So it's like a reward for doing it, so that next time you do it, you will get more, enthusiasm to do it for that reason. So similarly here, at the end of a 1,000-year tapasya, he is supposed to break the fast of that tapasya with taking bath and everything, and then chanting some mantras and having food. The food is ready for him. Everything has been arranged. He's about to have the food. At that time, Indra appears there as a Brahmana, poor Brahmana, and he says, I've not eaten for many days. I'm suffering. Please give me something to eat. So immediately, so earlier, his mentality would have been to get irritated by that and get angry. But now he doesn't become angry. He has controlled his anger. So immediately he says, yes, please take everything. Please go away. So Indra takes all the food and he goes away. And that is considered as having achieved a milestone for him. In that state, when he's about to eat food after 1,000 years of doing intense tapasya, at that point of time, somebody comes and takes away the food, whoever it is, and not reacting to that, withholding your senses and saying, I'm fine with it, I'm comfortable with it, and being really comfortable is an achievement. He's achieved that. So then he realizes he still hasn't become a Brahma Rishi. Brahma did not come, right? So he says, no, I will ensure that till Brahma comes and makes me a Brahma Rishi, I get the title of Brahma Rishi, I will not give up no matter what. I'll go endlessly. He makes that vow. And he starts the 9th round of tapasya. So this 9th round also goes for 1,000 years. And in this 9th round, he goes one level further. He controls his breath. He holds his breath. He stops breathing completely. And in this stopping of the breathing, just like we hear in the case of Dhruva's story also, when Dhruva stops his breathing, Hiranyakashipu stops his breathing, the disturbance to the universe happens. Other living beings, their breathing, the movement of prana gets disturbed. So eventually what happens is the devas, they go to Brahma and say that I think now he has managed to achieve what he wanted to achieve. He has managed to control his anger, senses, everything. Let's now go and give him the title of Brahma Rishi. And we can't allow this to continue also because it's disturbing everybody else. It's a disturbing process. So let's give him what he wants and also close this whole thing. So at that point, Brahma and the other devas come, stand before him and say, stop. Now you have become a Brahma Rishi. You have achieved what you wanted to achieve. But Vishwamitra is not done. He says, I just want one last blessing from you. I'm happy that you gave me Brahma Rishi. I've achieved the goal, but not only you, I want Vasishta to come and tell me that I've become a Brahma Rishi. Then I'll know that I have really achieved it. So they go to Vasishta, they ask him, and he readily obliges. And he comes and he says, congratulations, you've become a Brahma Rishi. And when he says that, they become friends. Their friendship starts. Enmity is over. And from that point onwards, Vishwamitra is a Brahma Rishi. And now, currently, he's a Saptarishi, one of the Saptarishis. So he's highly regarded, he's a Mahatma. So as we talk about his story like this, we recognize the struggle that he went through, struggle with his own senses, his ego, and everything. And we're going to analyze that now in more detail. But I just want to point out that in this analysis, we see that there are 8 instances of anger or anger points. The story reveals 8 anger points from the beginning to the end. 3 times in the very first interaction with Vasishta, where, when Vasishta says that I won't give you Kamadhenu, becomes angry, then tries to negotiate with him. He still refuses, becomes angry again, sends his soldiers, drags Kamadhenu. Then Shiva comes and blesses him. Great anger, he goes and attacks. 3 more times in the Trishanku story, when the Devas refused to come. 3 times, 3 anger points there. Then 1 anger point in the Ambarisha story, where somebody gets cursed in the process of his anger. His own sons get cursed here in the Shunashepa story, because it tells them to take this place of Shunashepa, which is actually not a very intelligent suggestion. But when they refuse, he's very unkind to them. He curses them. He says, you become the same as what Vasishta's sons became. Whatever curse I put on them, you will also be suffering in the same manner. So he shows no mercy to his own sons as well. And eventually in the cursing of Ramba also. So we see 8 anger points, and we also see 3 weakness of heart points. Okay, I'm calling it W. A stands for anger point and W stands for weakness of heart. So 3 times weakness of heart. First is when Trishanku comes. You see, some people may see it as compassion. The Trishanku is coming to him as a Chandala and saying, please help me, I need your help. And he says, okay, I'll help you. But then he has gone there for the business of doing his 1,000-year tapasya. And somebody comes, he can politely decline him. And Trishanku also is not on the right path. He's trying to go to Swargaloka in his own body. So he does not deserve that compassion. Trishanku rightfully does not deserve that compassion. But he loses his, that's called weakness of heart. When you give compassion to somebody who does not deserve compassion inappropriately, in an inappropriate manner. So this weakness of heart appears here, and he loses that tapasya. And again, it appears in the next round when Ambarisha and Shunashepa comes and asks him. Once again, the same thing happens. And the 3rd time it happens is when Menaka comes. Seeing Menaka's beauty, he loses his cool and he surrenders. So essentially, 9 rounds of tapasya, 8 instances of anger-driven decision-making, 3 instances of weakness of heart, and 4 different regions of the country. South, West, North, East, all the 4, and spanning 5,000 to 9,000 years. That is the story. Okay, so now this kind of an extraordinary story, how does it lend itself to an analysis from the Bhagavad-gita? I'll begin with the text which is not the Bhagavad-gita. I'll begin from Niti Shastra, okay? Because that's how many people would look at this. So I'll begin from there. The Niti Shatakam is a very famous text in Niti. Niti is about ethics, polity, and so on. This book is very popular among the scholars in Sanskriti, and it's also taught to school children. Prarabhyatena khalo vigna bhayena nichaihi prarabhya vigna vihataha viramanti madhyaha vignaihi punarapi pratihanyamanaha prarabdham uttama janaha na parityajanti. That is, three types of people. First type of person does not even start a new endeavor. Upon hearing about that new endeavor, mujhse nahi hoga ye sab, stops. It doesn't even start. That is called kanishta, or the lowest category. It says nichaihi, nichaha, the lowest category of person. Doesn't even start. Okay. So suppose, for example, you may tell somebody, why don't we think of doing a PhD? Let's say you haven't done a PhD so far. Somebody, you tell your friend, let's do a PhD. Then mujhse nahi hoga. Then you say, okay, no, I will go and do it. The PhD seems to be a difficult thing, but I can do it. Prarabhya vigna vihataha viramanti matyaha. Some people will begin because they get inspired. Okay, like January 1st, this year will be the year of fitness for me. I'll become fit, go to the gym, I'll walk every day, I'll do this, I'll give up alcohol. So the process is started. But vigna vihataha means vignas come, obstacles come, right? Any endeavor, obstacles will come. So when obstacles come, viramanti matya, they will come out. No, I can't do it. It's so unpleasing, displeasing. Madhyaha, second level. Third level, vignaihi punaf punarapi pratihanyamanaha means when obstacles come, they will come to everybody. Again and again being beaten by them, again and again being struck down by the obstacles. Prarabdham uttama janaha na parityajanti. The uttamas, the people at the highest level, will never give up, whatever happens. Whatever difficulties come, they will never give up. Once they have started, you have started your PhD, difficulties will come. It will not be a smooth process. So many times your guide will tell you that this is not okay. Some other colleague will trouble you. Something will happen. Something will go wrong. Data collection will not happen smoothly as you think it will. But you will not give up because you have started your PhD, you have to finish it. Okay, that is called willpower. That is Uttama. And that's the way it should be done. Right? So once you have started, you don't give up. And we see that character in Vishwamitra. No other king, we don't hear of any other king, at least not many. If at all we hear, it's only one or two like him. But we don't hear of people like this. Very rare. He started, and he eventually says that I will never stop. He does not know it will get over in the ninth round. Ninth round is in my timeline. That I know because it's over now. It's post facto. But while doing it, he doesn't know. He's saying, I'm going to go on until I become a Brahma Rishi. I'm willing to hold my breath. My body will dry up, completely dry up. No water, no breathing, no food, nothing. But he doesn't give up. Okay, that Uttama character is described, is displayed here. Okay, but now the Bhagavad Gita does not look at it like this. It gives us a completely different perspective. Bhagavad Gita goes to something very fundamental of what should the goal of a intelligent person be? What is real intelligence? Right? So let's look at it from that angle now. The very first perspective I would like to give is the nature of material desire or kama. And that is very clearly revealed in the story of Vishwamitra. In the Matsya Puranam, it is said, again, I'm going outside the Gita, but this is aligned to what the Gita is saying. It says, Yat prithvivyam vrihi yavam hiranyam pashavastriyaha nalamekasya tatsarvam iti matva shamam vraje. He says, this shloka says that on this earth, prithvivyam, vrihi yavam, all the rice, the barley, the gold, the animals like horses, cows, elephants, all the beautiful women, striyaha, all the women, all of these. Okay, normally a man or a king or a wealthy person, a Vaishya, a businessman, they want these things. They want a lot of grains. They want animals. They want possessions. They want gold. They want women. They want everything. Says na alam ekasya. Even if all of these things on the earth are given to one person, even it cannot satisfy one person also. Not to speak of satisfying everybody on the earth. It's not enough to satisfy even one person. Na alam ekasya. Knowing this, tat sarvam, na alam ekasya tat sarvam, iti matva. Knowing this, contemplating on this fact, this is a fact. Contemplating on this fact, shamam rajet. One should calm down one's mind. Means one should not pursue material possessions. One should not pursue material desires. Because if you pursue material desires, you will never be satisfied. It will never reach a point where you'll say, I am satisfied, I'm content with this. Now, Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, the 12th shloka. Ashapasha shatairbaddaha kamakrodha parayanaha ihante kamabhoghartam anyayena artha sanchayan. Says that Ashapasha shataihi baddaha. This is describing the 16th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, distinguishing between two types of mentalities, the Daivika Prakriti and the Asurika Prakriti, divine nature and demoniac nature. Daivika Prakriti, Asurika Prakriti, and this shloka is describing the Asurik Prakriti. What is the Asuri Prakriti? A person with that mentality is bound by hundreds of desires. These desires are like ropes. Asha Pasha. Pasha means rope. Shataihi, 100. By 100 ropes, this person is bound by those desires. Okay? Desires are not liberating, they are binding. Kama Krodha Parayana means he is devoted. He is devoted to his lust and anger. He's driven by them. He's all the time thinking, how do I satisfy my lust? How do I satisfy my anger? How do I take revenge on so and so? How do I destroy so and so? Right? Ihante means he's endeavoring, making effort, desiring and endeavoring. Kama bhogartham, for the sake of enjoying that kama, for the sake of enjoyment. Anyayena artha sanchayan, and resorting to all kinds of wrong means in the process. And we see in the story of Vishwamitra exactly that's what happens. So he wants Kamadhenu. He does not get Kamadhenu by the right means. Right means was what he asked Vasishta, please give me Kamadhenu. That's fine. Nothing wrong in asking. At least ask him, I am a king, so I need Kamadhenu. Vasishta said, no, you will not have Kamadhenu because she's mine. That's it. It should stop there. But he starts dragging her, starts fighting. Wrong means, and then the goal of being a Brahmana. Okay, he's meant to be a Kshatriya. He's born as a Kshatriya. I want to become a Brahmana. Do we see all Kshatriyas doing that? Or do we see anybody in any Varna normally doing that? It's a very abnormal thing, right? So he Kama Bhogartham. Why is he doing that? He's not doing it because he wants to practice Dharma. He's doing it out of vengeance on Vishwamitra. Vashishta. I will show Vashishta who I am. With that intention. That's the Asurik mentality. Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 37 shloka. Kamayesha krodayesha rajo guna samudbhavaha mahashano mahapapma vidhyena miha vairinam. There's a great enemy residing within you, Arjuna, Krishna says. It's known by two names, Kama and Krodha. They are both the same thing, lust and anger. And they are all devouring. Mahashanaha means it will eat you up. It's eating you up already. Mahashanaha, Mahapapma. Papma means wicked, very cruel on you. Know that it's residing inside you, this enemy. Mahashano Mahapapma, Rajoguna Samudbhavaha. Three gunas, Sattva guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. Rajoguna initiates this desire. And under the influence of Tamoguna, that turns into Krodha. The same thing comes out as Krodha. Tamoguna is the cause of Krodha. Rajoguna is the cause of Kama. Right? So Rajas and Tamas work together in this process. So we see Vishwamitra's, what is acting on Vishwamitra is not Sattva. There is enough Sattva in him. Without Sattva, one cannot do tapasya. Right? Tapasya is even to think that I will be willing to stand there for 1,000 years and do this tapasya is some level of Sattva. But along with that Sattva, there is also a strong amount of Rajas and Tamas in him, which generate that anger, that passion to do it. Right? Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 70th shloka. Apuryamanam achala pratishtham samudramapah sa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sa shantim apnoti na kamakami. As long as one does not tolerate the numerous desires arising within the mind, just like rivers are flowing into an ocean, but the ocean tolerates them. The ocean doesn't get disturbed. The ocean does not overflow its boundaries. The ocean remains where it is. Rivers are pouring, tens of thousands of tons of billions of tons of water is being poured into the ocean every day, every moment by the rivers, but the ocean remains where it is. In the same way, desires are endlessly coming into the mind. They are arising in the mind. Now, a person who says that, okay, I should satisfy this desire, I should satisfy that desire, I should have this, I should prove this, I should show this, finished. Means he is catering to those desires. A person who does that will never be peaceful. Na kamakami. Kaha shantim apnoti, one who controls them, one who doesn't get disturbed by them, one who ignores them. one who doesn't identify with them. Desire comes. So this shloka is not saying desire will not come. Desire will come. Even a person who is very spiritually advanced, after all, the mind is like a TV monitor. It will keep showing signals. So desire thoughts will keep coming. But the person who is spiritually elevated just knows how to ignore them. I don't identify with that. I don't care. I don't need it. I don't want it. It's a disturbance for me. Immediately he rejects it. As it comes, he rejects it. But a person who is not having that knowledge, who is an ajnani, will try to cater to them. And that's exactly what Vishwamitra went through. He pursued that desire. Right? Started out with Kamadhenu, then switched from Kamadhenu to becoming a Brahmana. Switch of desire. Right? And there also in between, you see, he's getting distracted. The fact that he's distracted shows that he is not firm in that Brahmanatva. He becomes firm later on after realizing that he has been beaten. So he caters to Trishanku because he wants to prove himself. I am king, I am a protector. Who is Vishwa, who is Vashishta to refuse you? Vashishta sons, I will show them who I am. That kind of attitude. I will show who I am, मैं दिखाऊंगा. That kind of a thing. And he fails in that also. Right? So this is Vishwamitra's mentality. So the Bhagavad Gita shows us how to look at this situation. The destructive nature of anger, krodha. You see in Vishwamitra's case how it destroys him again and again. So the Gita says in the second chapter how kama leads to krodha. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodho bijayate. So from kama, because of attachment to desire, krodha comes. When desire is obstructed, it becomes anger. And krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha. Sammoha means delusion, confusion. Delusion means lack of discrimination about between right and wrong. And sammohatu smriti vibhramaha, forgetfulness of what we learned in the Shastra. Or even if we didn't learn from Shastra, at least we learned from our teachers. Teachers never teach us bad things, right? They teach us do good, do this thing, don't do that thing. But we forget all that. Smriti bhramshatu buddhinasho, intelligence is lost, and buddhinashatu pranashyati. He falls down into material existence and misery. So Vishwamitra, you see again and again becoming miserable because of yielding to his anger. He yields to his anger, does something stupid, then repents for it. Realizes that I should not have gone into it. I should not have done it. Anger invariably leads us into a situation like that. When we cater to our anger, respond to our anger, and try to satisfy it, we end up in an embarrassing situation always. Anger never takes us to a good situation. Trividham narakasyedam. This is reinforced in the 16th chapter of the Gita, 21st shloka. Again, Daivi Asuri Bhav. So he's talking about Asuri Bhav, how it takes us to Naraka. Trividham narakasyedam dwaram nashanam atmanaha kamaha krodhas tatha lobha tasmad etat trayam tyajet. Here three things are listed. Kama, krodha and lobha, greed. He says that these three, Sri Bhagavan says, are the doors to Naraka, hell. In English, we translate Naraka as hell. So hellish existence comes because of these three things. And therefore, please give up these three things. Give up Kama, give up Krodha, give up Lobha. Three things, please give them up. It says, Kama Krodha Vimuktanam Yatinam Yatachetasam Abhito Brahma Nirvanam Vartate Viditatmanam. In contrast, a person who has given up Kama and Krodha is able to go beyond Kama and Krodha, look beyond them. Such a person, he is very close to liberation, mukti, Brahma Nirvanam. Brahma Nirvanam, Brahma means Bhagavan. So he's very close to mukti and to, to unite with Bhagavan, to become a das of Bhagavan. He's very close. So please give up. Now I'm giving you what will happen if you don't give up and what will happen if you give up. You can see clearly why you should give up Kama and Krodha. So then, tapasya. So we have talked about how Kama, this desire, was the driving force for Vishwamitra to do whatever he did, and how Kama became Krodha, and Krodha kept troubling him throughout and kept causing his fall down. If he didn't have Krodha, probably in the very first round of 1,000 years, he could have completed his Brahma Rishitvam. But he could not do that. He kept going. He had to go through 9 rounds and eventually realized that anger was the cause of his fall down and give it up. But now let's look at tapasya itself. Okay, the Bhagavad Gita does a very nice analysis of tapasya. So it distinguishes between tapasya of 3 types. Satvik tapasya, rajasic tapasya and tamasic tapasya. And we'll have a quick look at what they mean. First is Sattvic Tapasya, described in 4 shlokas. And here, Sri Bhagavan points out 3 dimensions of Sattvic Tapasya. The first dimension is the Tapasya of the body, Sattvic Tapasya of the body. Second dimension is Sattvic Tapasya of the speech. And the third dimension is Sattvic Tapasya of the mind. 3 dimensions of Sattvic Tapasya. Okay. So first, Deva Dvija Guru Pragya Pujanam Shauchamarjavam Brahmacharya Mahimsacha Shariram Tapa Uchyate. So with one's body, if one worships Deva, God, Dvija, a Brahmana, Guru, one's own Guru, one should worship one's Guru. Pragya means any learned person, may not be one's Guru, but a learned person. And one does it maintaining one's life very simply, in a simple manner. Arjavam. Arjavam means simplicity, not having anything unnecessary, living, a life which is minimal. We say minimalism. There's today a movement in the West called minimalism. They're also realizing that the simpler you are, the happier you will be. So simplicity. Shaucham means being very clean, internally clean, having clean thoughts, externally clean, keeping the body and surroundings very clean. Okay. So Deva Dvija Guru Pragya Pujanam Shaucham Arjavam. Brahmacharyam, practicing celibacy. Okay, celibacy means, of course, staying away from sexual activity of all forms, physical sexual activity, as well as mental. Okay, activities like masturbation or mentally fantasizing on having sex with somebody. That is opposite of brahmacharya. So brahmacharya means staying away from all of this in all forms, right? Ahimsa, non-violence. So ahimsa, the loose translation is non-violence. It's not only about physical violence, it's also about not being a nuisance to others, disturbing others, causing anything that causes pratikulata, displeasing situations for others. That's called ahimsa. And that's called himsa. So not doing that is ahimsa. So doing all this, okay, Deva Dvija Guru Pragya Pujanam Shaucham Arjavam Brahmacharya Mahimsacha Shariram Tapa Uchyate. So being able to live a life in which we do all these things and stay away from all the unwanted things here, like himsa, is called Sharira Tapa, the tapasya for the body. We'll come back to Vishwamitra and see whether he did all this. Anudvegakaram Vakyam Satyam Priyahitam Chatayate. Anudvegakaram Vakyam Satyam Priyahitam Chayate. Swadhyayabhyasanam Chaiva Vangmayam Tapa Uchyate. So what is tapasya of the speech, of our words? Anudvegakaram. Speech which does not disturb others, which does not hurt others. Udvegam means anxiety, hurting, or causing stress to others. So when we speak in a manner that doesn't stress out others, doesn't make them feel hurt, burnt out, insulted. Don't insult others. Anudvegakaram Vakyam. Satyam. Speak the truth. Don't say lies. Don't tell lies. Priyahitam. That which is beneficial to the other person. Tell somebody something that's beneficial to them. Don't say something just to make them feel flattered. Don't flatter people. If there is something that is not true about somebody, don't say it just because they will think good about you, just because you will get a friendship with them. For the sake of friendship, don't flatter anybody. Priyahitam means say something that is beneficial. If you find something defective in somebody, if you can say it in a way that doesn't hurt them, which points out where which they benefit. But if you think that they will not be in a position to take that thing from you, that critique from you, then don't say it at all. But instead, don't say something false. Say that you're so good when you know that they are not good, they are bad. Right? So such kind of speaking is called priyahitam, that which is beneficial and affectionate. Affection and benefit, both are taken into account there. Swadhyaya abhyasanam. Swadhyaya means self-study. Okay, Swadhyaya is considered a very important part of our Samskriti. A lot of learning happens not through the teacher. Teacher, of course, is the most important, is the fundamental source of learning. But on top of that, Swadhyaya is extremely important. So Swadhyaya is self-learning, studying on our own, contemplating on the meanings, etc. And Abhyasanam, along with Swadhyaya, Abhyasanam means the process of repetition, saying the same thing again and again. Okay, you read a line and repeat the line again and again. Memorization, rote learning. Rote learning is considered very important in our Samskriti. Okay, so rote learning is the basis for creativity. Today, people say that, Indians only rote learn. They don't understand the subject. They're only rote learning. But that's a misunderstanding of rote learning. Rote learning actually strengthens the mind. Repetition strengthens the mind and becomes the basis for creative thinking. Creative thinking builds on that. Okay. So abhyasanam chaiva vangmayam tapa uchyate. So doing all this is the austerity or tapas of the speech. Manah prasadaha saumyatvam maunam atma vinigraha bhava samshuddhirityetat tapo manasam uchyate. What is tapas for the mind? Okay, so the mind normally is looking for mental gratification in different ways by fantasizing, imagining things which are things. But thinking or conducting your mental activity in such a manner that it is sustained happiness, manah prasadaha. Prasadaha means happiness, not the happiness of fantasizing on some sense gratification, but happiness of sustained, happiness which sustains over time. The happiness connected to spiritual thoughts, sattvic thoughts which uplift us. Saumyatvam means the mind thinks of things which are pleasing, which is pleasing to the mind, thoughts which are not about violence, contemplating on, like for example, contemplating on hurting somebody or contemplating on when we watch, for example, a violent movie, we recollect scenes of how, the hero and the villains fought with each other, the chase, and there was a bombing and firing and this and that. And as we contemplate on that, it disturbs our mind even more. Instead of that, contemplating on spiritual topics like the descriptions given in the Bhagavatam, they're so pleasing to the mind. As we read that, the mind is filled with very pleasant thoughts. You read that and go to sleep, you'll have a very nice sleep because the mind is left in a very pleasing state when it goes to sleep. It's called saumyatva. Saumya literally means something that is beautiful, very handsome, beautiful, pleasing. Okay, saumyatvam. Maunam means calming the mind down, silence in the mind. Aiming for meditation, for example, meditating in a manner the mind calms down. Atma vinigraha, withdrawing the mind internally, focusing on the inside, realizing that the real happiness is inside oneself. Maunam. Atma vinigraha, bhava samshuddhihi. This is about purifying the existence. Once existence becomes purified, the mind aims for that purification. The mind which is contemplating on purification of existence. Such tapasya of the mind, consciously withdrawing the mind from opportunities for gratification and focusing on these, the pleasure inside, the happiness inside, is the tapasya of the mind. Shraddhaya paraya taptam tapastat tribidham naraihi. If this is done with shraddha, by a human being, then aphalakangshibihi yuktaihi satvikam parichakshate. And this is done without anticipation of any material fruits in return. Aphalakangshibihi. This is called sattvika tapasya. And in contrast to this, what are rajasic and tamasic tapasya? There's only one shloka for each of them. Satkara mana pujartam tapo dambhe na chaivayate. Satkar, honoring. Others should honor me. Satkar, mera satkar hona chahiye. Mana, others should respect me, consider me as a great person. Puja, others should worship me. Tapaha dambhena chaivayate. Dambha means arrogance, pride. Done with pride, arrogance. I will show Vasishta who I am. I want Vasishta to come and tell me that I am a Brahma Rishi. I want Devas to come and tell me. In our world today, I have run 5 kilometers today. Everybody should know this. I'll put my photo on Facebook standing there. I ran 5 kilometers. I got a certificate in some useless conference. Certificate with a medal. Photo. Facebook mein like aa gaya. 120 people liked me. Oh, Shreya didn't like me. Shreya ko dekh lenge. Usne like nahi kiya. So this kind of thinking means you're doing it, whatever tapasya you have done, you've gone to a conference, not because you wanted to get some real inputs or anything. You want to put your photo on Facebook or Instagram and get people to like you and say that you have done something great, right? So this kind of tapasya is called kriyate tadiham proktam rajasam chalamatruham. This is still not the worst. Worst is coming. It's called rajas tapasya, rajas level of tapasya. And what is the worst? That is tamasic tapasya. Is mudagrahena atmana yat pidaya kriyate tapa. Okay, done with excruciation. Pidaya means it It causes immense suffering to you when you're doing it. It's tamas. It's done out of mudagrahena, means atmanaha mudagrahena, means your mind is now taken away by foolishness, in a state of foolishness, foolish thinking. Okay, so the Rajasic person is not foolish. At least he's got a clarity about what he wants. I want honor, I want appreciation. But this guy is foolish. He doesn't even know where he's going. Pidaya kriyate tapaha. Parasya utsadanartham. And there is also a strong sense of vengeance. Utsadanam means to disturb other people. Parasya utsadanam. To give misery to other people, this tapasya is done. Like terrorist training, for example. You're training people. Why? Because you want to kill other people. You're training somebody to bomb himself. You're training somebody to teach him how to kill himself by exploding a bomb tied to his waist. What kind of tapasya is that? Those people also go through the same training that our Indian military goes through. If you go to Khadakwasla, you'll see Indian young boys going through immense training because they want to defend the country in the future. If you go to a terrorist training camp, similar training, but to blow themselves up. Tamasic tapasya. Right? That tamasa mudahritam. If you see Vishwamitra's tapasya, you'll see it's predominantly Rajasic tapasya, right? It's driven by Rajas. I will show who I am. But you will see elements of tamas coming in between as anger comes and flows into him, right? And destroys him completely. So this is tapasya. So with this, we have analyzed from the perspective of kama, krodha, tapasya, and so on. And now we will sum it up by comparing samanya dharma and parodharma. So earlier I described this difference, but the benefit of everyone. Samanya dharma, so dharma broadly has two branches. And the Veda that's given to us, the entire Veda, and a lot of other Shastra also, like even Niti Shastra, for example, tells us how to live happily in this world, in coexistence, in a manner that is ecologically beneficial to society, sustainable. And that is called Samanya Dharma, how to live happily materially. Through punya. Do things which earn you punya, don't do things which give you pap. That is the message of Samanya Dharma at its essence. Right? So Nitya Naimittika Karma. For example, if somebody is a Kshatriya, then he has got Nitya Naimittika Karma. He has to do administration, governance, etc. And there is also a provision for Kamya Karma. Certain types of yajnas are given. Like, for example, the yajna to have a son, Putra Kameshti yajna. That's a Kamya Karma. Or the yajna to become Indra in your next life, not in the same life, but next life, by doing Ashwamedha yajna. You do 100 Ashwamedha yajnas, then you can become a Indra in a future birth. This is called Kamya Karma. So Nitya Naimittika Karma and Kamya Karma, there are two types of activities given in Samanya Dharma, where you can be more and more happy in this material existence. But Samanya Dharma in the Bhagavad-Gita is rejected. Bhagavad-Gita says this is not the goal of life. The goal of life is Parodharma. Parodharma is where you are taught that happiness, real happiness, is not material happiness. However good material happiness might be, that is not eternal happiness, because after some time it ends and it's not pure. It is driven by selfishness. Pure happiness is within you already. It's already existing inside. Discover it by uncovering your ignorance, uncovering that knowledge which lies inside, removing that ignorance. So parodharma, happiness driven by true knowledge of the self and seeking the pleasure of Bhagavan. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. That is parodharma. So the Bhagavad Gita clearly brings out this difference. In the Vishwamitra story, we see Vishwamitra caught up in the goal of Samanya Dharma. And that too, he is not following it in the way in which he is supposed to follow by the principles of Dharma. If he was to become a Brahmana, for example, if he develops the desire to become a Brahmana, being a Kshatriya, then what should the correct way be? The correct way should be that as a Kshatriya, do your duty correctly. And after your duties are over, like we heard in the story of Bharata, the king Bharata went to the forest and then did tapasya. Of course, Bharata was following the path of bhakti. That's different. But let's say you're following the path not of bhakti, but you want to become a Brahmana in your next birth. Wait for your next birth and then do the tapasya required to earn the punya with which you can take the birth as a Brahmana in the future. If you have the punya, that Swabha will give you the Brahmana Janma in the next birth. That is the correct way to become a Brahmana if somebody wants to become that. But instead, he doesn't have the patience. He doesn't have the patience to wait for the next birth. He wants to show Vasishta who he is. and breaks all the principles, causes enormous disturbance. That's the point I wanted to make here. You see, when somebody goes outside the way in which things are supposed to be done, he goes outside the realm of dharma and does his own process, right? He ends up disturbing so many people. In the process, the sons of Vasishta are cursed, very badly cursed. In the process, his own sons are cursed. In the process, the devas are displeased. In the process, Vasishta's ashram is burned down. N number of things he does which cause nuisance in this universe. And eventually the devas say that they are not coming out of appreciation. They're saying that, okay, this guy has withstood all this thing, and now he's holding his breath. He's like holding us to ransom. It's like holding the entire universe to ransom. So holding his breath and disturbing everybody. Let's put an end to this. I think he has earned enough sattva to be called a Brahmana. Let's call him a Brahmana. It ends in that manner, right? So this is the meaning of wrongly doing even Samanya Dharma. But in the Bhagavad Gita, we are not interested in Samanya Dharma, whether it's wrongly done or rightly done. We want to even go beyond that and adopt Parodharma. So in the context of Parodharma, a couple of very quick stories I will just mention before I close. And this is about comparing Vishwamitra's situation to two other people. One is Dhruva, which is in the Bhagavatam, in the Chaturtha Skanda of Bhagavatam, where driven by the desire to get a kingdom, a material desire, Dhruva takes a path which happens to be the path of bhakti. He is given diksha by a guru who is an acharya of bhakti, and he is initiated into the process of bhakti yoga. He doesn't know all that. He just knows that he wants to get a kingdom, and there's some elderly person comes and tells him that if you do this, you will get what you want. But in the process, he follows bhakti, by which his chitta shuddhi happens very fast. He chants a mantra according to his guru's instruction. It doesn't disturb anybody. The process that he follows disturbs no one. Of course, it causes anxiety to his parents that such a small child has left and gone, is wondering what happened to him. But beyond that, he doesn't disturb anybody else. He just goes quietly. 6 months he spends. And at the end of 6 months, his tapasya ends and Vishnu appears before him. So it's a process of bhakti which starts with artha, the desire for some material return. But because of purification, that desire is gone. And he then accepts bhakti. He becomes a bhakta there. He gets Shuddha Bhakti. The second one is the story of Sri Haridas Thakur, who lived about roughly 450 to 500 years back in Bengal, Odisha. And he was a contemporary of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he was known as a person, just like Vasishta is known as Japatam Sreshta, the foremost among the people who do japa. Haridas Thakur in his time was known like that, as a person who does japa in an extraordinary manner. His level of japa, commitment to japa, was so extraordinary that he took a vow that he would chant the name of Krishna, the names of Krishna, 300,000 times a day, morning to evening, and that would take nearly 24 hours of the day. So this story where, because of this level of japa, where he has even conquered his sleep and requirement for food and everything, he is living in his hut and doing japa all the time. And at that time, there is one person by name Ramachandra Khan, who is like a district collector or some political personality in the neighborhood, who becomes jealous of the popularity that this guy gets. And he says, I should do something to break this guy's thing. So he tries to find faults in his thing, but he's not able to find fault. So whatever people talk about him, nobody says anything wrong about him. So how do I now implicate this guy? So he figures out that probably the only way left and probably the best way to do it would be to get hold of some women and finish him off. So he enlists some prostitutes and he selects the most attractive one among them. He says that he asks her, are you willing to do this? He says, very gladly, I'll do it for you. So he tells her that, you go there and, make sure that, he's with you. When we see him with you, we will follow you with the police, the local police, and we will catch both of you together. And then we will publicize that he was caught with a prostitute. That's enough for me. She says, no, don't come immediately. I will actually physically engage him. I'll physically unite with him. And at that time, I will come back and tell you that I have done it. And then I will make a complaint. I will say I was sexually harassed by him. Like today, we sometimes see people doing. So I will say this, and then you can implicate him with that. We will finish him off. So she goes there with a plan, and she comes to him, and she's dressed in a very seductive manner. She exposes parts of her body, and she sits in front of him as he's doing japa. And she interrupts him. She says that, look, Haridas, you're so young, you're so good looking, you're so handsome, and I'm not able to control myself looking at you. I want to spend the night with you. She speaks to him very seductively. Okay. And he immediately understands that she has come, and she has not come on her own. She has been planted. She has been planted here. So he just tells her very calmly, he says that, look, madam, I have actually taken a vow that I will chant so many names of Krishna in one day. And I have just finished only so much today. Please allow me to finish the rest of it, and then we will spend time together. So she says, okay. So she is now happy that he has agreed to spend time with her. He didn't ask her to go away. So she sits there. She says, you sit here only. So she sits there at some distance from him. And he continues to do japa. And she's waiting, waiting, and it goes on and on. It doesn't stop. It goes the whole night. It becomes early morning. And she's waiting. She's tired now. The whole night has gone by. She was supposed to spend the night with him. But now it's gone by. And she looks at him, and then he looks at her and he apologizes. He says, look, actually tonight, my plan, it took longer than what I had thought. But let's try tomorrow night. Please come back, he says. So she's now okay. She's now okay. The disappointment is over. She says, okay. So she goes back. And again, she comes back the next evening, and again, the same situation happens. Once again, it goes on till morning. And this time he says, please forgive me again this time. I thought that it'll be over earlier so I can spend time with you, but it didn't get over. But tomorrow night, definitely I'll do it. So he makes her come back for a third night. Okay. So third night she comes and she sits there. And by the time the third night gets over, she also is chanting the names. She's also chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna, because she's been hearing him for 2 nights consecutively. And she's also now chanting that again and again and again. And she's crying as she's chanting. Her mind is no longer thinking of sleeping with him physically. She's crying, she's crying, she's crying, she's crying. And she's changed her mind, and she's now repenting in her heart. Why did I come here? What did I come here for? What am I experiencing now? And when he finishes, eventually, she falls at his feet. She says, please, please forgive me. Please forgive me for what I came here for. And you would please give me the path forward. I don't want to be a prostitute anymore. So he says, I know what you came for, and I did this deliberately. I wanted to save you from the miserable existence that you are having. So now do whatever I say. He says, you chant this mantra, this will become your life. You go back and you give up all your, whatever possessions you have built up all these years through your occupation, you give it to others. And you come here and stay here in this hut. I will live from here. So she comes back and she shaves her head. He leaves the place and goes away. And she shaves her head, and she then becomes a saint. And she gets worshipped there. She gets the same worship that he got. She becomes known as a prostitute whom Haridas changed. His life changed. So contrast this with Menaka coming to Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra is doing thousands of years of tapasya, intense tapasya with the goal of becoming a Brahmana. Menaka comes and he's finished. Ramba comes, he knows why she has come. Again, he's finished. He gets angry, loses his cool. Right? So contrast that with this. This is parodharma. The path of parodharma is one in which one develops detachment right from the beginning. One knows that this is not my goal in life. There's no goal to become a Brahmana, become this and that. You give up. There's much higher happiness inside me. I want to discover that happiness. This thing. So what is the takeaway for us from all of this? We should choose. Our goal should not be something material. It should not be driven by ahankara. You see, Vishwamitra's goal is driven by his ahankara. Ahankara is the root for our agyana. Agyana is based in ahankara, right? Ahankara is that which is the first thing in the material creation which comes. It is the most subtle item. It's more subtle than our mind, our intelligence, our mana, buddhi. Ahankara comes last. And after ahankara, it is just prakriti, mahat tattva and prakriti. Nothing more subtle than ahankara in our ignorance. That's the basis for our ignorance. Therefore, our goals in life should not be based on ahankara. It should be based on Atma Buddhi, what is good for us, the Atma. We are the Atma in the body, we are not Ahankara. So we should go there, and going in that direction requires very consciously, Yatna Purvak, regulating our material desires. Don't allow the material desires to take over. Refuse to, I'm telling you something very practical. Refuse to give in to anger. Anger will keep coming. So many instances in life we have opportunity for becoming angry. But consciously rein in that anger, tolerate, hold that anger back and act. Even though anger is inside, don't allow it to come outside. Take an action where that anger doesn't show its face. Practice sattvika tapasya. We just heard what it is, and experience the sweetness of that tapasya. Like, for example, Ekadashi. Ekadashi is a very sattvika vrata. 1 day of abstaining from normal food, normal grain-based food. We take only fruits, or if possible, if somebody can, then don't take anything, not even water. It's called Nirjala Ekadashi, and many people do that. It's very much possible. But if you are not ready for that, at least take some fruits, a little bit of milk if required, or water, fruit juice. There's so many other alternatives which can be taken. But the body is subject to some discomfort. Tapasya means discomfort, willingly taking discomfort for the benefit of building strength, for the purpose of building strength. Okay, perform sattvika tapasya of different types and experience the strength and sweetness of that tapasya. Very important thing, and this can be learned from Vishwamitra's example also, however bad his goal was. The perseverance that Vishwamitra showed, and all the others also have showed, like Dhruva, Haridas Thakur, whoever, perseverance in our goal. Taken up something, persevere, don't give it up. Focus on the necessary things in the course of doing that. Give up everything that's unnecessary. Weed out those things, and live in a manner that is not disturbing to others, that is harmonious with and pleasing to the others around us. It's extremely important. Samskriti teaches us that. Both Samanya Dharma and Parodharma both concur on this one point, that the way we live our life should be done in a manner that is pleasing to others. It should not be disturbing to anyone. It should never disturb others. Okay, so with this, I will stop. I've taken a very long time today. I hope that you got some value from this, and I hope that you will be able to also give your comments and ask some questions. Anybody online has anything to ask or say?
No, sir. No questions. Thank you.
Sir, I had a question.
Yeah, little loudly can you speak so the mic can catch your voice?
So this is not regarding today's story that we discussed, but it was it may touch upon it. So we talked about Samanya Dharma and Paro Dharma, and essentially Gita says that you should aim for Paro Dharma. Now in the Varnashrama Vyavastha that we have, so is it based mainly on the Samanya Dharma? That is one. And
Yeah.
yes, so sir, then taking upon, talking about a different story, that is, please correct me if I'm wrong, but there were four brothers, I think Ashwini Kumaras, or there were four brothers who wanted to visit Vishnu.
Sanat Kumar, yeah.
Yeah, Sanat Kumar,
The
sorry.
four, yeah. Sanat, Sanatana, Sanandana, Sanaka.
Yes, so they wanted to visit Sri Vishnu in Vaikuntha, but they were stopped by Jay and Vijay. So they said that, okay, you have impurities right now. That is why you had stopped us. Otherwise, you would have known that who we are and you would have let us meet him. So in order to purify yourself, you would need to go back to earth and to
You
Bhuloka.
have to go to Samsara. You would
Huh.
not take birth in Samsara from
Right.
Vaikuntha, and you would need to Shuddhi, to do Shuddhi of yourself. So you will take 3 births, one after the other.
So even though they were already in Vaikuntha, they, in order to cleanse their mind, they had to come here in Samsara. So we see that first Hiranyakashipu was driven by krodha, and then later Ravana he was driven by Kama. And then Shishupal was quite envious and talked ill.
Greed, yeah.
Yeah. So, sir, is Maya required to overcome Maya? I mean, they were already in Vaikuntha, but then they were sent to experience Maya so that they become purified enough to again experience Vaikuntha.
Okay. Did those online hear Sarthak's question? Was his audio clear?
Yes, sir, it was clear.
Okay, good. Thank you. That means the mic is for our plan. Good. We don't need another mic. Okay, the answer to his question is that when Bhagavan performs his leelas, then he chooses his Nitya Parshada. See, Bhagavan says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham kimartham srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So Shri Bhagavan keeps coming, or rather you can say manifesting himself, not that he is coming from somewhere, he is here only, but he manifests himself from time to time in front of us and he performs different activities. So to perform those activities, he does not choose just any Samanya Vyakti. He chooses his Nitya Parshadas to perform different roles. So Jaya Vijaya were chosen because they are very intimately close to him. They are his own Dwarapalakas. So they are chosen. So he arranges this Sanaka Sanatana Sanandana Sanat Kumara to have a tiff with them in this little manner. It's a very subtle tiff actually. And he sends them down just so that he can perform a Leela with them. He uses them.
And so what about, do these things ultimately help you, are required for purification?
No, they are not required for purification. For us, it is not like that. We are already Baddha Jivas. Whereas these are not Baddha Jivas. They are just playing the role of a Baddha Jiva. Although they don't know that. They are sent into this situation by Yogamaya. And they behave as if they are under Mahamaya, just like any Baddha Jiva. Right? So we are not in that category. We are genuinely under Mahamaya. And we are struggling to overcome. We are caught up in the different tricks that she is putting on us.
So it is right to reject Kama, Krodha, Lobh in the first instance and not
Yes.
use them as steps of a ladder to move to a higher place and then reject those.
Moving up the step of the ladder requires us to reject them. We cannot use them to move up the step of the ladder.
So
They
for
are like
example,
thorns. Kama and Krodha are like two big thorns coming in the path. You have to remove the thorns so that the path becomes smoother for us.
So for example, in Vishwamitra's story, he used his ego to actually elevate himself and then threw away his ego.
No, he didn't use his ego to elevate himself. His ego came in the way of elevation. His ego drove him towards pursuing a goal, but because it was so strong, his ego threw up anger. You see, his ego was much milder than that, what it was. Then that anger would not have come. So much anger would not have come. Right? You don't see, for example, Haridas Thakur becoming angry. You don't see even Dhruva actually throwing up out of anger. Dhruva only says that nobody is going to stop me. His ego is there. He's going with ego. But you don't see, he definitely faced a lot of difficulty also, right? So, yes, of course, it started out with him becoming angry with his mother, with his father and mother both. It starts out like that, Dhruva's story. But eventually, he doesn't succumb to anger. He starts and then he completes. He doesn't go cursing anyone. Just goes into one. But he's fortunate, of course, he gets the kripa of a bhakta. Dhruva's story, of course, gets the kripa of a bhakta, so it takes a different turn altogether.
He was initiated by ego. If he had no ego, if he was all right, that okay, even if I do not get space, what is the problem? Let me roam here and there. Maybe roaming the garden or.
So he would have got the kripa of a bhakta in a different manner. For him, it came in this manner. In the case of Vishwamitra, for example, first of all, the goal of becoming a Brahmanatva, to become a Brahmana, if he had done his Kshatriya dharma itself in a proper manner, and then taking the advice of his guru would have told him, okay, now you have reached the stage when you're old enough and your children have grown up. Now make your eldest son as the king and you go to the forest. The next Janma, you can become a Brahmana or you can become a Deva. You can go to Swargaloka by doing all this. That would have been the correct path. Instead of spending 9,000 years or 5,000 to 9,000 years, you could have done it in a much shorter lifespan. He could have gone to Swargaloka, become a Mahatapasvi, whatever Brahmanatva he wanted to get. That is the path that all the kings take. All the Kshatriyas normally take that path.
So suppose if his ego said that, okay, I do not want anything else, but I want, say, Shri Bhagwan. And
Yeah.
then he says that, okay, I'll leave my kingdom and I'll simply
Bharata.
go and do bhakti.
Like Bharata, yes.
Is that right? Or is that
Yes.
also-
That is Parodharma. If he said that, if some king says that I don't want to become anything in this material world, I realize that I am actually a small amsha of Bhagavan. Mamaivamsho jiva loki jiva bhutas sanatana. I am a small amsha of Bhagavan. So I should do what is required to realize that. And I should go to Bhagavan after this life is over. Like Bharata did. That is definitely a higher thing, far higher thing than what he did. And yes, if somebody does that, that's what they should do. And so many kings have done that, he says. No? Gita also, he says that. Bhagavan says that. Apeksha, you had a doubt. Can you speak a little louder so this mic will catch you?
Okay. So, sir, discuss that we can do the present body that we have.
Yeah.
So the episode of man landing on moon, was that fabricated? But
Okay. Did you hear Apeksha's question, everyone?
Yes,
Did you
sir.
hear Apeksha's question? Was the voice audible?
Yes, sir. Audible.
So, well, I personally think, I mean, the Shastra's answer is not directly about this particular moon as such, but I personally believe that even for other reasons, man has not gone to. I think America has fooled us. That's what I think. From all the information I have gathered over the years, even independent of what Shastra says, I would still think that man did not go to the moon. NASA just played a big. The simple reasons are that I can discuss in more detail with anybody who's interested later on. But for the moment, I will just say this much, that man did not have the technology to go to the moon at that point of time. Even today, to land a yarn on the moon is so complex. The first Chandrayaan that we sent could not land. It had a crash landing, hard landing, and it got destroyed. The second one, we landed, right? And we are not thinking of taking off from the moon and bringing that Chandrayaan back because we don't have the technology for that. Right now, we believe that we have the technology to land the Chandrayaan on the moon. Let's accept that it is true. But taking the Chandrayaan back to the Earth by making it take off from there and bringing it back as it is, we don't have. But what does the NASA story claim? That the Apollo missions. So NASA's story is that 10 Apollo missions were planned in the 1960s and 70s, 1969 to 72. 10 were planned, out of which 3 were unsuccessful, they were aborted, and 7 were successful. 7 Apollo missions landed on the moon. Each of them, 2 people landed on the moon, and third person orbited the moon in what is called as the orbiter. And the lunar module landed on the moon with 2 people each time. So 14 people have landed on the moon, according to NASA. And each time they carried some equipment with them. And in few of those, the last few of those 7, they also carried a moon buggy. Okay, so when I was doing my BTech in IIT Kanpur, I was completely fascinated by that. I used to read books on astronomy, and I used to read books on the moon mission. I remember reading a full book on the entire NASA moon mission, right? And much later, I realized that I saw books written by NASA people saying that NASA fooled America. There's a big documentary by Fox Television. It's available on YouTube. You can search it, which shows how there's so many reasons why man could not have gone to the moon at that time. And today I can see with the technology we talk about today, it's so difficult to land a module without human beings on it, on the moon. The NASA story is that a lunar module went and landed on the moon. It separated from the orbiter orbiting the moon, successfully manned itself, landed on the moon, took off from the moon. It had a takeoff from the moon, came back and joined with the orbiter. Then they turned back and they came back to the Earth and landed on the Earth.
the astronauts stay on moon.
Whatever it is,
Okay.
whatever, that is irrelevant. But think of this. Where is the technology to do all this? Even today, we don't have technology to land something safely on the moon.
Got it, sir.
50 years later, technology in all spheres has advanced significantly. Digital technology is now infinitely, I mean, not infinitely, but many billions of times more powerful than what it was in the 1960s. Right? Not only digital, I mean, connected digital technology, telecom, all technologies have improved in all spheres, robotics. At least let them send a robot to the moon and show now, today. Who is sending? That is reason number one, technology. A supporting reason is that after NASA sent a man, I mean, NASA claimed to send a man in 1972, the last two people who went. No other country, including America, has tried to send a man on the moon. At that point of time in the 1960s, there was a talk that, okay, now that man is landed on the moon, we will colonize the moon. We're ready because we have seen 14 people have gone and come back. Now we can send spaceship after spaceship of people, and people can live on the moon. They can expand on the moon and have colonies on the moon. We can create oceans on the moon. We can create lakes on the moon. People were talking like that. Is there? What has happened? Nothing has happened. 50 years, nobody has sent anybody on the moon. And today they are talking not about sending human being to the moon. They're talking about landing something safely on the moon. Just before Chandrayaan-2 landed, our Indian Chandrayaan landed there, Russia had sent something and that crashed on the moon. That didn't land. And Economist carried a big article saying, one down, one more to go. Just before India landed its Chandrayaan on the moon. Then Economist has accepted that India has landed now. So for those reasons, not because what Shastra is saying.
So again, it is between North Pole and South Pole, I guess. Because it was claimed earlier that men landed on the North Pole, I guess. And
Okay.
India landed on the South Pole, which is the darker side of the moon.
Okay.
So that's why it is so much difficult to land on the moon on the darker side.
Okay.
Nobody had reached there. That's what like will say.
Okay. Long time to give that answer. But I would urge you, I know I may not have convinced some of you, but it's my personal belief, that's all. I won't talk about this publicly. It's because you asked me, I said this. But I would still urge you to look at YouTube videos and see videos which give arguments for why NASA has pulled off a hoax. That whole moon thing was a big hoax.
And
Sir,
no
one
one-
question from my side.
Yes, go ahead.
One urge from my side. Yeah. Sir, actually, you are explaining very beautifully the Gita to us, and we are getting very good aspects from it, out of it. Sir, but it is very difficult to practice actually all these things in reality, as we are discussing. So I request you, after completing all the sessions, please keep 2-3 sessions to actually practice these things. How we can bring this into our practice in real life.
Sure, Puneet. It does look difficult when you first hear about it.
Yeah.
But like I pointed out, like I've listed some points on this slide. Okay, some of these things, if you see, they are not really beyond us. They may look difficult, like for example, refusing to give in to anger may look difficult in the beginning, but if you contemplate on it, if you reflect on why you got angry, what you could have done alternatively instead of getting angry in that situation, if you reflect on what happened in the past, by doing that repeatedly, we can actually overcome many of our weaknesses and be able to actually practice these things. So they are not really beyond us. They are difficult, yes, they are challenging, but the challenge, gives us something to experience sweetness later. Like Sri Bhagavan says, yattad agre vishamiva pariname amrutopamam sat sukham satvikam proktam. That happiness which comes, it begins with something that looks like poison in the beginning. It's like poison in the beginning, but like nectar in the end. So it does look big, looks difficult, but contemplate on the sweetness it gives. If you are able to do it, what if you're able to do it? Experience sweetness. So contemplate on the sweetness and motivate yourself. And that is how we develop the strength to do it.
I urge you, sir, please put on some of these new tools and techniques to us, like meditation and other kind of things, which can be helpful in practicing all these things.
Yeah, sure.
To be yourself. Yeah.
Sure, Puneet. I'll also talk to you personally when anyway we have to discuss about the thesis too. So we will talk more about this. Yeah, sure, definitely.
Thank you, sir.
Shall we close for today? ॐ स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यो शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ तद्विष्णोः परमं पदगुं सदा पश्यन्ति सूरयः दिवि चक्षुराततं तद्विप्रासो विपन्यवो जागृवागुं सस्समिन्धते विष्णोर्यत्परमं पदं पर्याप्त्या अनन्तरायाय सर्वस्तमोतिरात्र उत्तममहद्भवति सर्वस्याप्त्यै सर्वस्य जित्यै सर्वमेव तेनाप्नोति सर्वं जयति ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरि ओम तत्सत्